are my newest finished props, little lights, so to speak. I actually have 4 different versions, but I've only done 2 of them so far. You can see that the eyeballs can move around, and the backs can spin 360 degrees. Now, if you're interested in picking one of these up, they're available kind of in my standard locations. Links are in the description. And if you pick up a kit, I will walk you through putting it together right now. So these are the pieces that you'll receive when you order a kit. Now, since there's multiple versions of the kit, the parts may look a little bit different. They may have spines on them, they may have slightly different look, but these are basically the parts you're going to receive. Now, the first part is the front half of the body. You can tell it's the front half because it has these 4 snaps and these 2 pins on it. You'll get the back half of the body. You can tell that's the back because there's nothing here on the back, nice and smooth, no pins. And you also get the front and the back of the inner kind of eyeball, and then you'll get a little back cover piece, and you'll get the eye plate. So if you have all your parts, as always, the first step is to take a toothbrush and maybe some digging implements, and go ahead and clean off any of the 3D printing dust, and then go ahead and use 220 grit sandpaper to go ahead and sand all of the visual kind of cosmetic surfaces. When you're cleaning, pay special attention to these little crevices in here. You might need to take a thin tool and just dig through here to get all of the 3D printing dust out of there. That's the leftover SLS nylon from the printing process. Once you have everything sanded and cleaned, the next step is you actually have to create a couple more parts. And how you can create these is with a piece of plastic from, this is from a pair of chopsticks I purchased, but you can use any thin, flat piece of plastic, preferably PETG. And what you need to do is, using your eye plate, go ahead and trace a circle and go ahead and cut that out. And then what you need to do is go ahead and sand with your 220 grit sandpaper both sides of that. And so now what you've created is a nice diffuser, and you'll use this to even out the LED light when we're installing that. Now, there's one more piece you have to create, but you have 2 options. You can either cut another one, just like you did, that's clear, or what you can do is, using your eye plate, take your piece of plastic, heat it up with a heat gun, and then simply set it. Go ahead, heat up your plastic, set it on top of here, and with a gloved hand, go ahead and just lightly smooth these parts in there. Not too low, otherwise you'll hit the bottom, but just smooth it, and then you can create a domed version. And so then all you got to do is cut that out, and you'll end up with a nice domed eye cover. It depends on how much work you want to put in and the tools you have, but either one will work just fine. So once you have those, you can move on to assembling this main kind of eye core. So the first stage to assembling the inner eyepiece is to make sure that your back plate fits into the back of the eyeball. And if you look closely, you can see that there's 1, 2, 3 tabs on this back plate, and there's 3 holes in here, but 2 of them are large and 1 of them is small. So line these up, drop this in, and then rotate it. Now, if you look on the inside, you can see that these 3 tabs, and there's 3 little kind of ribs, they should rotate and go all the way over and touch. If you can't rotate it all the way over, what that means is you need to do a little sanding. You need to sand here, here, and here to smooth out the ramps that lock the eye in, and then you can also sand in here with a little bit of sandpaper to smooth those out. So with everything properly sanded, you can see that you can drop this piece in, and then when you rotate it around, it goes all the way and hits these end stops, and this line ends up being horizontal, and that's what you want. And so that's how you know this part actually is in properly. Now if you look really closely, there are 1, 2, 3, and 4 little holes around the edge of this that need to be opened up. The 3D printing powder kind of gets stuck in them, and so you can use a paper clip and a Dremel, as I do a lot, or in this case I'm just going to use a needle, and you just press them into these holes, and then you can just wiggle it around to go ahead and open those holes up. We're going to need those later, so just go ahead and do that 4 times. The next stage in assembling the central core is to handle light blocking. When you put LEDs inside of this, since they're white, if you just did it like it is now, you'd get kind of a glowing sphere. What you need to do is block the LED light so it only goes out the eye hole, which is what we want. Now you have a couple options. If you take a look at my Apple of Eden video, you can use multiple layers of paint on the inner surfaces to do light blocking. You can use black or silver paint, but what works absolutely 100% perfectly is if you use small pieces of foil tape and you actually stick them on the inside of this particular item, and you can see, making sure everything overlaps, that now I literally have a metal barrier on the inside that no light is going to be getting through. Just make sure you trim everything back away from the edges as well as from the battery kind of back door here. That way you don't impede anything, and then you simply trim everything off, and so now when you put light in here, it will only come out of this hole. You can also see here that I finished up this inner core. I actually coated it in large pieces of foil tape, and then I just sponge distressed some black paint over it to give it a kind of darker silver look. But you can use paints, you can use rub and buffs, you can use whatever you feel like doing, and since it's your particular prop, you can use whatever colors suit your fancy. So the next stage is the eye plate, and so what I've done is I've simply taken some black paint, given it 2 coats of black paint on the front and a little bit of black paint right here just on the back, and that will work for light blocking on the eye. Again, we want light to pretty much be coming through this piece, so we don't have to worry so much on this one. Then the other thing I've done is I've actually taken black paint and I've painted all around this inner ring on the inside. You don't want to put foil tape or anything reflective on this ring, otherwise when you turn on your LED light you're going to get some very weird kind of reflections and refractions going on because of this inner ring being reflective, so you want that to be nice and black. So the next step is I took my eye plate and I actually super glued the diffuser disc we made here in the back, so now it's got the nice diffuser integrated. And then you need to take your lens. In this case I'm going to take my curved one. You simply drop it into the front part of this core, and then there's 2 tabs here on the top of this piece, and there's a little rib that sticks out here, and that helps you make sure that you get this aligned vertically, and then you simply drop these guys in, and so that's what you'll be left with. That's the curved lens. If you want the flat lens option, I can show you what that looks like. I think they both look good. It's really just kind of dependent on your personal preference or what kind of tools you have lying around the house, but there's your flat lens. Still, I think, a cool look. And then all you need to do to hold this in place, now you can use a little bit of hot glue to hold this in place. And so you can see here what I've actually done is I've taken a ring of foil tape and I've actually stuck it around here, and this is the last bit of light blocking, so that way none of the light wants to kind of glow out of these kind of connection zones. And so now using a flashlight, if I turn on the light, you can see it's only coming out of where we want it, and you're not getting any light bleed out of any other area except for those 4 little holes that we cleared out earlier here in the back. The next stage is to connect the 2 halves together. You can use some glue, or if you're like me, you can simply take some thin strips of foil tape, stick one here and one there, put the 2 halves together, and then just reach on the inside and smooth everything out. And just like that, you have your completed eye unit. And now let's make some light. When it comes to lighting, you actually have a couple of options. You can see here on my original prototype, what I did is I put a battery holder, 2 LEDs, and a switch here in the back. And you can see the LEDs actually point out to the side. That way you get a nice diffused light. If you point them straight, you're going to get big, bright spots, and you don't want that. You want a nice even light, and the foil tape really helps with that. Another option, if you're not quite as handy, is you can simply use one of these tea lights. You can pick these up pretty much everywhere. If you simply remove the little flake flame bit, what you can do is you can go ahead and just drop this in, turn on the light and drop it in. Now you will get a nice bright point spot because you can't angle this LED, but you can use that, and then in that case you'd have to make sure that you don't glue these halves together. You don't actually have to for assembly. You can simply set them together and finish assembly. but that's another option. But the option I went, which is I think very cool, is I took a little piece of foil tape and a little bit of glue and I stuck a magnet down here, and then I got one of these RGB color change ice cubes you can get at party stores, and you can see I dremeled the bottom of it off so I could get to this main board unit. And then if you look closely, you can see I actually bent all the 3 LEDs pointed to the side, so that way I don't get any bright spots. But now I can choose the eye color depending on what I'm interested in, and then all you have to do is simply drop it in there. The magnet will hold it in place, and then you simply just line up your 3 tabs, drop it in, and rotate it. And there you go, you have your nice blue eyeball light. And once you have that all finished, you can see that your central unit is all complete and ready to go. Now, for these 4 little holes here in the back, in case you're wondering why we went through the process of putting those in, sometimes it can be hard to grab and rotate this. You can press it against your palm, but if you simply bend a little piece of paper clip, you can actually just stick it in these holes here and here, or you can do the other 2, here and here. And that gives you a nice convenient handle of which to rotate and then shake out your light. And so that's a nice way to get to your on and off switch, so you don't have to fully disassemble the body every time you want to turn on and off your eyeball. For finishing these main body pieces, you have a lot of options. You can use rub and buffs, you can use paint, you can use tapes and foils and vinyls. The thing to remember is that the surface finish of SLS nylon is a little bit porous, so anywhere you put paint it's going to bleed a bit, so you might have to do a little bit of sanding for cleanup. I'm going to go ahead and use my favorite foil tape here. You can see partway through on this one, just to show you guys the process, I put 1 piece of foil tape across here, and then I trim it off on these bottoms and the tops. Using these natural edges as break lines, and then I go ahead and add another piece down here, a piece here that wraps around and gets the little corners back here, and then a little cap piece to cover up those guys. And then for these sides with the big break in the middle of them, I actually just put 1 piece that covers 1, 2, 3, 4, and then all of these little wrapped around internal edges and this top piece. So I will continue that process, and then soon we will be finished. I have completed foil taping both of these sides, and you can see I've taken some black paint and I've painted on all of the nooks and crannies to distress it, and then I've taken some other acrylic paints and I've done some general distressing, and I've done these accent pieces on both of them. Now, to put the whole thing together, simply take your central unit, line up this channel with one of these pins way near the front of the channel, and then all you got to do is tilt this guy in, and then it'll slide into place. And then take the back, set it on top of these 4 snaps, and then just press in and rotate a little bit. And you'll see it'll hook in, and this guy can spin, and your eyeball can move all you'd like. And if you want to turn on and off your lights, what you can do is take your little piece of paper clip, and you can simply stick these in one of these 2 sets of holes, and holding the eye, not the body, but the central core, otherwise you might want to break off the pins. Simply hold the eye and rotate, and then you can pull out your lights and change the color or turn them on and off as you see fit, and then simply place them back in. Here is everything finished and put together. Just a reminder that I have alternate styles, 3 of them, so you can go ahead and pick out the one that you like the most, and you can see you can get a little bit creative and add some vinyl or alternate finishes, using black with foil tape, or you can use any color that you want. After all, it is your prop. Make it your own.